I think Jimmy Kimmel should come back on Tuesday. I think he should say that the phrase that he used to try to discuss Charles was ill written and poorly delivered. I also think he should say one of the reasons this might have occurred is because my writing staff might not really be aware of what half the country is talking about. And I would say what he should pledge, and I would say this about The View too, Will. I would say he should say every week from now on, we're going to have a Donald Trump voter on as a guest, and we're going to make it a part, since this is a talk show that's supposed to speak to all of America, of trying to hear from all of America. It doesn't mean that it's strident politically or anything like that, but I would say he could start with Adam Carolla, his old friend on The Man Show. We had him on Clay and Buck today, who is a Trump-supporting L.A. comedian. I think this is a no-brainer. I think it would be a smart move. I don't know if he'll do it, but that's the way that I would say he should go about trying to address what he said on the show last week.
Shut the up! Yay! You may call it free speech in jolly old England, but in America we have a little something called the First Amendment. And let me tell you how it works. There's something called a talent-o-meter. It's a completely scientific instrument that is kept on the president's desk. And it tells the president when a performer's TQ, talent quotient, measured mostly by niceness to the president, goes below a certain level, at which point the FCC must be notified to threaten the acquisition prospects for billion-dollar mergers of network affiliates.
Yes, I don't know if you've seen the Jimmy Show to return tomorrow. This tiny statement: last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision we made because we feared some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. This is coming after Libras took it to another level to boycott the show. Some unsubscribed. I saw a lot of things happening after his cancellation. Now, coming back to the show, a lot of people are saying they will give him credit to his contract expired.
NBC. Just wondering, do you have comments on those shows, and are they doing what Kimmel did Monday night, and is it even worse on those programs, in your opinion?
Well, if you can be unfunny, that's fine. And a lot of people are sort of saying that, well, people are punishing Kimmel because they don't like a joke that he told. But, you know, we don't need to rehash it here. But obviously what he said was not a joke. It wasn't presented at all that way. But when you look at these other TV shows, what's interesting is the FCC does have a rule called the equal opportunity rule, which means, for instance, if you're in the run-up to an election, you have one, partisan elected official on, you have to give equal time, equal opportunity to the opposing partisan politician. So far, so good. But there's an exception to that rule called the bona fide news exception, which means if you are a bona fide news program, you don't have to abide by the equal opportunity rule. And over the years, the FCC has developed a body of case law on that and has suggested that most of these late night shows, other than SNL, are bona fide news programs. And potentially, I would assume you can make the argument that The View is a bona fide news show. But I'm not so sure about that. And I think it's worthwhile to have the FCC look into whether The View and some of these other programs that you have still qualify as bona fide news programs and therefore exempt from the equal opportunity regime that Congress has put in place.
This is what he said. The View responded to this, they didn't want to speak up because they usually take time to respond, to things like this. If you don't notice something on this video, then I don't know. The View knew that Jimmy will be coming back, responded today, just few hours. We are now getting info that Jimmy's show will continue. That is to tell you they didn't want to get involved in everything that was happening at that time.
Did y'all really think we weren't going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel? I mean, have you watched the show over the last 29 seasons? So you know, no one silences us. And to all my friends in Italy who reached out, you have to know it's okay. We're still here. We're still broadcasting. And when the news broke last week about Jimmy Kimmel's suspension, we took a breath to see if Jimmy was going to say anything about it first. We did the same thing with Stephen Colbert. Then our show was on tape on Friday. But we are live here today, and we're getting into it now. Okay? Because to be clear, you cannot like a show. Now, I want to make sure I got this right. To be clear, you cannot like a show and it can go off the air. Someone can say something they shouldn't and get taken off the air, but the government cannot apply pressure to force someone to be silenced. No, it's not up to Brendan Carr. It is not up to him. I don't understand how you are the man in charge of the nation, and you still don't understand how the First Amendment works. Do you want to remind him? Because
I would
you're
like
the
to.
lawyer. Please
Yes, I would
do.
like to. Thank you, Whoopi. You know, freedom of speech undergirds our democracy, and our founders were very, very clear on that.
See the time The View is responding to this. One day after the burial of Charlie, they now just want to spew nonsense on air. I knew this would be coming. They will play this mafia. After things get cold, they will continue with this. Talking about free speech, there are certain things that you don't need to spew out. You need to control what you say sometimes. If they allow any person to say some kind of ridiculous things at moments like this, then everywhere will be on fire. Yeah. But these people will never understand that what Jimmy said was wrong and they will not acknowledge it. I was thinking that if you will actually acknowledge that what Jimmy said that wasn't okay, they won't do that, right? What I'm struggling to observe now is what Jimmy will actually say tomorrow.
Disney is bringing him back on the air tomorrow. ABC says in a statement that we made the decision last week to suspend production to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment. But now, after having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, the ABC says we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. So Kimmel's getting back to work.
I react to this?
We don't, and that becomes the big question now. Will these local station affiliates choose to air Jimmy Kimmel Live, or will they continue to protest the comedian, even though the network is bringing him back nationwide? ABC does gently chastise Kimmel in this statement. The statement says, quote, the decision to suspend him, we made it because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive.
It's great news. It's great news. And I think you're absolutely right, and Brian is absolutely right. This was a community standing up for the rights of Jimmy Kimmel and all people who speak in public, entertainers and journalists and all of them. And it worked, at least with the head of Disney. And it makes good sense because they would have won in court. One thing that gets lost in this, you do not lose your First Amendment rights because you have a broadcast license. The Supreme Court has been clear on this. The government cannot take your license because of speech they don't like.
You were talking
I want to see the people blaming Trump every single day about this. This company took the decision on their own. Trump name came into the show. Why? Even Obama responded to that. The White House did not hold back.
With all due respect to former President Obama, he has no idea what he's talking about. The decision to fire Jimmy Kimmel and to cancel his show came from executives at ABC. That has now been reported, and I can assure you it did not come from the White House, and there was no pressure given from the President of the United States. And how do I know that, Kaylee? Because I was with the President of the United States when this news broke in the United Kingdom.
It was 24 years to the day that I made comments on ABC that got me canceled from that network.
I was a Democrat all my life. They better figure out how they lost people like me.
I'm fooling around with my right to say what I feel.
He does not have a right to have a television show where he lies his ass off to the American people.
Well, there are repercussions to spreading lies.
Somebody to get up there, not give a speech about.
He's still a king MAGA.